One way of looking at Sparks is to dismiss the electronic pop duo as not much more than a one-hit wonder with a pretty weird stage show. But they've had a huge influence on bands as diverse as Queen, Pulp and Franz Ferdinand. Steve Smith has been to meet them as they begin a new British tour.
We take you back now to Top of the Pops from June of this year, when Sparks made it straight into #2 with This Town Ain't Big Enough for the Both of Us.
Sometimes it's as if the last 30 years never happened. Noel Edmonds is back on the box, and Sparks have got a new record out. The weirdness is back.
The young Mael brothers came to Britain first of all and were inundated with interviews. They spun a lot of myths about themselves with tongue-in-cheek, that many of which were taken seriously, such as that they were Doris Day's children, that Ron was indeed related to the Führer, and and this one is true, that John Lennon said, "Oh my Christ, Hitler's on the telly," when he first saw them and was a little spooked.
The part where he referred to saying, "Oh look, there's Hitler on the telly," perhaps I'm not quite as proud as that, because to be honest, it was always the mustache. Obviously, it's different now than it was then, but at the time, I kind of saw it as Chaplin-esque or Oliver Hardy.
I don't think so. One critic has said Ron Mael's tash made him look like a cross between a Nazi and Blakey from On the Buses. He frightened an entire generation of children with his appearances on Top of the Pops. But according to Ron himself, he was only trying to get girls.
It's not all his fault.
No. This finger doesn't work very well either, so it's okay. The problem is that just as a keyboard player, it's hard to be sexy, you know? So I had to kind of go the other direction and be really stoic. So all the intellectual groupies were the ones that kind of flocked my way, but all the kind of the more sexy, flamboyant ones went to the rest of the band.
And what did you like to do? Did you go to football? Brothers Ron and Russell Mael made their home in London in the 70s, in Purley of all places, and they're just off the plane from LA for some concert dates here. Newsnight has found them some suitably creepy rehearsal space in disused railway vaults under London. Sparks have just released a new album, their 20th, the successor to such hallowed discs as Angst in My Pants and Beat the Clock. Their pop art sensibility has endeared them to the likes of filmmaker Tim Burton and Andy Warhol.
And I brought a camera too, being a fan of Andy Warhol, and I said, "Would you mind if I took pictures of you as well?" And he said, "Oh no, that would be fine." And he said, "What sort of film are you using color?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I'm using color. You know, it's an Instamatic camera, and it has to have color film." He says, "Wow, you're incredibly gifted to be using color." And I went, "Woo."
They apologized also for him being late for the interview because they said he was working out.
They just won't go away, Sparks. In the 70s, they influenced people like Queen, who supported Sparks on an early tour. A nascent Queen stood at the sidelines and took notes, perhaps, as Sparks did their fusion of pop and opera and God knows what else.
The influence of Sparks was not confined to Freddie Mercury and his band. Many of the quirky, artsy groups who followed them into the charts, like Soft Cell and the Smiths, doffed their millinery to Sparks, and their influence has been felt on a new generation of performers, from Pulp to Franz Ferdinand. Don't believe us? Well, this is Sparks in '75.
We'll mind if I go out and not come back again. Well, thanks a lot.
And this is Franz Ferdinand, almost 30 years later. Sparks' set list next week may well include new titles like Baby, Baby, Can I Invade Your Country? But they'll also surely find room for this one.
Zoo time, is she a new time? The mammals are your favorite type and you want her tonight. Heartbeat, increase in heartbeat, you'll hear the thunder of stampeding rhinos, elephants.